yesterday we were talking about the Wagner-Steagall Act. Did we get to this? No. Did we get to this? Yes. So financing mortgages, we figured that out, right? Yeah. Yeah, we got to figure it out. Okay, so the Wagner-Steagall Act. So we have Glass-Steagall, which was what? FDIC. This creates U.S. Housing Authority. Now, when you guys took history last year, I think some kids last hour remembered this. Mr. Jack showed you this. So when we had the industrialized revolution and people moved off the farms to the cities to work in the factories, a lot of them lived in these kind of houses. What were they called? This is an aerial view of the apartments, called dumbbell houses. Does this ring a bell from last year? No? Okay. So this is like an aerial view from a drone, okay? Now this is like a courtyard. All right. Now, if you look at the background here, this is a large apartment complex that was built by the government. Okay. These dumbbell houses or apartments where the workers that lived in worked in the factories lived became slums. Okay. They got worn down, a lot of poverty. They weren't making a lot of money, the factory workers and so forth. So the U.S. government sent loans to cities to tear these down, okay, and build new ones. These became known as housing projects, building these new apartments for people. The name stuck. They kind of became known as the projects. Now, I know a lot of you guys kind of live in this northwest Wichita bubble, okay? But some of you may not, where there's more poverty, and you find houses that look kind of like this, little brick houses around Wichita. Like, so if you go over to the West YMCA over here, over there, over there. You guys know the West Y, not the Northwest Y, the West Y over there. You see some of these small brick houses, okay? Those are government, a lot of those are government subsidized housing, okay? Or, as some people would refer to them, as the projects. Now, any guys ever seen this movie, Blind Side, about Michael Orr, the football player? The black guy that gets adopted by the white family, plays college, you know. In that movie, you see Michael Orr, he lived in the projects. His mom did. And it's a tough place. I grew up in the South. And we didn't call them the projects, we called them the quarters. Okay, like that term quarter, like quartering of soldiers. Quarters, you know, like if you're a soldier, they said return your quarters, you go back to your residence. Okay. Now, this is in Queens, New York. This is Queensbridge. There are 3,142 apartments here. So say you put 4 people in an apartment. Okay, that's over 12,000 people that all share one thing in common. They're poor. They're poor. So when you put that much poverty in close proximity to each other, what are some of the byproducts of that going to be? Huh? Crime. What? Okay, it might get run down. What about gangs? What about drug abuse, alcohol abuse? Is this a good place to raise a child? No, it's not. Okay. If you go to LA, it used to be called Watts. These huge apartment complexes. Chicago, Cabrini Green. Okay? Where you put all your poverty, all this poverty in one place. And it becomes not a safe place to live, not a safe place to raise children. Okay? This is not good. Okay, so in essence, guys, we tore down these slums and we built new ones. See, people don't own these. These are apartments. And a lot of these are subsidized by the government. You don't pay full rent. Okay? And some people don't pay any rent at all. Now, if you don't own something, you take care of it. Let me give you an example. How many guys are chewing gum right now? That's it? 2. I got 2 chewing gum. Okay. Now, did you guys know there used to be a rule here at Bishop Carroll? You're chewing gum. Okay. 3 people chewing gum. All right. You weren't allowed to chew gum here. Do you know that? It's a demerit. Okay? And teachers gave demerits for chewing gum. And you didn't want to take your gum out and put it in the trash, which is what you should do, right? Because then you get caught and you get a demerit. So what do kids do with their gum? Under the desk. Okay? And every year at the end of the school year, Carol Aust, who was our head janitor, she would get so mad about all the gum under the desk. And she got angry enough to where they changed the frickin' rule. And they said, okay, we're going to let you guys chew gum. Now hardly anybody chews gum anymore. More people chew gum when you weren't allowed to than when you are allowed to. Kind of like prohibition. Because it's fun. You're sticking it to the man. Okay? You're breaking the law. Right? And that's exciting. See what I can get away with. I know how, I used to be a teenager. Okay? Now, people don't take care of it. Would you ever put gum under your mother's kitchen table or dining room table? Maybe one time. Okay? So, Austin, did your mom not invite you to Iceland?
She's actually going to Bermuda next week. No invite.
No invite. His mom posted a bunch of beautiful pictures from Iceland yesterday on Facebook. What about your son? Okay. I want to go to Iceland. You guys want to go to Iceland? This summer. See the Northern Lights? Okay. Yeah, road trip. Senior trip. All right. So guys, this has been torn down. Cabrini Green in Chicago has been torn down. Watts in LA has been torn down. Now, do you guys know what gentrification is? Have you heard of this? So, where Cabrini Green was in Chicago. Now, if you guys go to Chicago, you've got Lake Michigan. Okay? Michigan Avenue that runs along the lake. High premium real estate, guys. Okay? Well, Cabrini Green was in a high premium real estate area. So guess what? Most of the people that lived in Cabrini Green were of what race? Most of them were black. Okay? So when they tore it down, did they build newer apartments where black people could live or housing that these people could afford in that area? No. They sold that to high-priced real estate developers like Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like real estate developers. And they're going to put high-priced condos on there and make money off it. So who moves in there? Wealthy people do. And the black people get pushed out to a different part of the city. That's gentrification. Okay? And this country has a long history of it. Now, there's a really cool museum in New York City. Okay? You guys ever watch Sesame Street growing up? So you know what the front stoop, the stairwell, all these houses in New York City like that, okay? Well, one of them is a museum that was built like 200 years ago. And in this museum, you go into this old house, and they have a history of like different groups of people that moved into this neighborhood over 200 years. Okay, so originally you had the Dutch, right? Then the Dutch moved on somewhere else, and then you had the Saxons come in, the Anglo-Saxons. And then some Germans moved in there. And then eventually Puerto Ricans moved into that neighborhood. And then black people moved into that neighborhood. Okay? And it just kind of like, it goes through that history. And some of that is gentrification, where people get pushed out, okay, by other people. And it's more of a social history of the United States that you can see in many different places, okay? So it just bears mentioning, all right? I'm sorry, it's just a little off topic. I think it's interesting. All right, so let's move on to the AAA. The Agricultural Adjustment Administration is created by the Agricultural Adjustment Act. Now, let me give you a little tip here, guys. We got a lot of acronyms. The NRA, the PWA, TVA, WPA. We got a bunch of these. So on the test, you're not sure what the A stands for. It's generally administration. Okay, now TVA is going to be authority, right? But I think the rest of them are administration. Okay, just for your knowledge. So the act here creates the AA administration, Agricultural Adjustment Administration. With me? 1933, we are still in the first 100 days. We've got to help farmers. Okay, this is what we're going to try and do. Remember tariffs? Tariffs are going to prevent farmers from selling their crops overseas. We actually have too much food. I know there's a dust bowl, guys. There's a drought. Okay, and we also know that we're going to lose between 1930 and 1934, 1 million family farms will be lost. But still, guys, we have more than enough food. In fact, we have too much food. When you have a surplus of food, what happens to the price of it? It goes down. When you have a surplus of anything, the price goes down. So we're going to try and reverse that. We're going to try and cut those surpluses to raise the price, which will help farmers have better income. With me? So we're going to limit the production of certain things. Wheat, corn, cotton, hogs, tobacco, milk. We have too much. So, Farmer Ted, gonna get a knock at the door. Say, Farmer Ted, we do not want you to plant your wheat crop this year. Farmer Ted's like, what? Now, you're telling some of the hardest working people on the planet not to work. This does not go over well with farmers. And the farmer says, well, wait a second. How am I going to make a living if I can't plant my crop? And Uncle Sam, the government, says, we're going to give you cash bonuses for not planting. Well, where's the government going to get money to do that? Well, they're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. So we're going to get money from a manufacturing processing tax. So in this case, the government's going to tax Henry Ford, who makes cars, to pay Ted the farmer not to plant crops. So a manufacturing processing tax, you tax one industry to pay an industry not to do something else. Now, I know, again, you haven't studied the Constitution here. Does the government have the power to tax one industry to give money to other industry for not doing something? Actually, guys, this will be struck down as unconstitutional, this tax right here. Okay, eventually. It takes time to do that. You can't just say, the court doesn't look at the law and say, oh, that's unconstitutional, you can't do that. No, somebody's got to be affected by it. Somebody's got to sue. It's got to make its way up to the Supreme Court, and then they make that decision, which sometimes can take years. In this case, 1936. Now, I had 3 homework assignments turned in. Is that any of you? Okay. Talked about problems with the Supreme Court. Roosevelt. This will be struck down. Okay. Now, what is Henry Ford going to do? Well, he's got to pay this extra tax now. No, you're going to pay that tax. He's going to charge more for his cars so he can pay this tax to pay farmers not to plant the crops. Okay? Now, where are my government students? The government students? Okay. Remember when we did bureaucracy? So now this will make more sense. Okay? You have 2 cows. The government regulates what you can feed them and when you can milk them. Then it pays you not to. Then it takes both cows, shoots one, milks the other dry, then pours the milk down the drain. Then it requires you to fill out forms accounting for the missing cows. Does this make sense? Paying farmers not to plant crops. Well, yeah, it does. And it's going to work. We want to raise farm income, right? That's the goal. Guess what? Farm income will go up 240%. Now, what about the cotton that's already been planted? Cotton farmer, I need you to plow up your crop. 1/3 of your crop. You cannot let that cotton grow. And then the pigs. Or the pigs can grow into rotund, into hogs. They're going to come knock on your door and tell you, you need to kill, slaughter your baby pigs so that they don't grow up. 6 million baby pigs be slaughtered. Now, if you don't want to kill your pigs, we'll hire somebody to kill your pigs for you. But we're killing these pigs. Rotund, want to stop them from growing up, becoming rotund, because you guys know we use the whole pig, right? Now, let's talk about this. What do you get from a pig? Number 1, top of the list, bacon, okay? Now, what else? Pork loin? Pork what? Pork belly? Pork butt? Pork chops? Pork tenderloin? You ever heard of pickled pig's feet? What do we do with the ears? Like dog treats? Pig ears? What about skin? Pork rinds. Yeah, how many of you guys like pork rinds? I like pork rinds. They're actually very low in carbs. If you're on a low carb diet, which I've done before. And then everything that's left over, what do we call that? Sausage. Sausage. And what do you use to encase the sausage? The pig intestine. We use the whole pig. Okay? So they got to kill these baby pigs before they can grow up and be used. Now, this makes me sad because when I was a younger father and my son was growing up, we used to watch the movie Babe. You guys have seen Babe. The cutest movie ever. What about Charlotte's Web? Okay, you guys seen that? You need to watch Babe, okay? So I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's too good not to tell you about. Okay, so this guy lives on a farm. I think he's in Scotland or something like that. He might have been Irish, okay? So he's got sheep. He's got sheepdogs for the sheep, right? Well, this baby pig doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to be eaten. And so he talks to the other animals. They talk to each other, the animals do. Okay. And this baby pig is really nice to the sheep. And he wants to be useful so he doesn't get eaten. So the sheepdogs don't like the pig. The sheepdogs are mean to the sheep and to the pigs and the other animals. The sheepdogs rule the farm. But this pig, he surprises the owner that he gets along with the sheep. And so the owner eventually, he like puts him in the contest, the sheepdog contest, to, where they say which sheepdogs are the best at herding the sheep, like getting them into the pen. Dogs do this, right? And so he enters a pig into this contest, and everybody thinks he's nuts. And of course, he's nuts, right? This guy's entering a pig. The pig is fantastic, and he gets all the sheep to do exactly. They march in a row. You go this, and they go into the pen, and there's this huge crowd watching this pig do it. They go freaking nuts, and he wins. This is the greatest prize ever. And at the end of the movie, he looks down at the pig. He says, "That'll do, pig. That'll do." I think it's the only words that the guy speaks in the whole movie, this old farmer. Okay. It's very sweet. And then they did Pig in the City, or Babe in the City. Okay. This movie's called Babe. You should watch it. Sorry. That's the story I like to tell. Now, you ever heard the phrase, living high on the hog? You guys have heard that? Living high on the hog. So, the higher you go up on the pig, the more valuable the meat is. The lower you go on the pig, the cheaper the meat is. Okay? Like when you're going to buy steak, buy chuck roast, pretty cheap. Buy beef tenderloin, it's freaking expensive. I saw a piece at Sam's the other day. Freaking this with beef tenderloin about this big. $114. It's the best meat you can buy. Special occasions. Okay. All right. So, guys, this actually works. Okay. Farm prices rise rapidly. Farm income goes up 240% between 1932 and 1935. And then that little statement at the bottom, okay? How many of you guys, didn't somebody in here say they have grandparents that might have a farm? Okay, who's taking over when they die? You volunteering for that? You going to become a farmer? They want it? Or are they going to sell it? And it's going to become part of the corporate farm, which is what happens. We have these huge corporate farms, and very few farmers do not receive, very few farmers do not receive subsidies from the government. Raise your hand if you know what a subsidy is. All right, we got to talk. In 2018, Congress passed the Farm Bill for 5 years. Price tag, $480 billion over 5 years. Did you catch that? $480 billion goes to farmers. To do what? To feed the world. Now, corn. What do we use corn for? To eat it. And you guys go to the little corn stand when they get the corn in the summertime and buy it fresh from the farm here? You know what I'm talking about? The ones in the parking lots? Stuff is so good, isn't it? The day it's harvested?
Because that's when it's at its sweetest.
Oh, man, it's so good. Yeah, you're getting that right off that gate. It's like Gator Farm or Gutter Farm or something like that. They set up those stands. You got to do that.
That's
It's
why
so
sweet corn is
good.
more expensive.
Huh?
That's why sweet corn is more expensive than normal.
Yeah.
because it-
Now, what else do you use corn for? Is there something called corn oil? Like soybean oil, corn oil? Yeah. What else can you get from corn? Huh? Corn starch? Corn syrup? What else can you get from corn? Fuel. Called what? Ethanol. Ethanol. Yeah. So you got to grow the corn. We're going to use it for fuel, ethanol. Now, here's the thing about ethanol, guys. If you add it to gasoline, it burns cleaner than regular gasoline. Ethanol does. So it's good for the environment. So if you're a tree hugger, you're like, yeah, ethanol. That's a good thing. Okay, now, every 4 years when we have a presidential election, we have what are called primaries. Okay, so there's a bunch of Republicans or a bunch of Democrats that want to be the nominee for their party for president. And the first primaries are always this Iowa caucus. In the New Hampshire primary, the Democrats moved South Carolina to first this time to favor Joe Biden, who ended up getting the nomination, then having it ripped from underneath his feet. By the way, Joe Biden was on The View yesterday. Did anybody catch any of that? The View with Joe Biden? They were drooling all over the man. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't like those words. So, every 4 years, these presidential candidates descend on Iowa and bow at the altar, the cow, the corn farmer. Why? Because they want their vote. And they promise subsidies, billions of dollars of subsidies to corn farmers. So that corn will be grown, and then the government will help pay for it. And then you go over to Colwich. If you're on 53rd Street, guys, 53rd Street, there's a big plant on the north side of the road. How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? That's an ethanol plant where they take corn and they make fuel. Now, guys, you ever heard of this guy named Charles Koch? I think Charles Koch would make ethanol if he thought he could make money doing it. Yeah. Does he make ethanol? No. Why? Because the only way to make money making ethanol is if the government uses yours and mine taxpayer dollars to subsidize the ethanol industry. Now, if you think it's going to make the planet not heat up as fast or change the climate as fast, then you're all in on it because it's producing less carcinogens out of your gas, out of your car or truck. It's cleaner fuel, but you can't burn on straight ethanol. You need to mix it with gasoline. So a lot of times you get like 10% ethanol mix. Some you can do 20%. But that's about it. Okay, but guys, the only way to make money off of this is getting subsidies from the government. And oh, by the way, same thing with wind. Same thing with solar. If Charles Koch thought he could make money building wind farms, he would do it. But he's not, because you can't. The only way you can make money is to get taxpayer dollars paid to you in the form of subsidies. This is called corporate welfare. Guys, we even give freaking subsidies to our oil companies. Like ExxonMobil's one of the largest corporations on the planet, and the taxpayers are subsidizing them? No! I'm against that. Okay? Now, I got nothing against corn farmers. Let's just eat more corn instead of making fuel. I don't mean to piss anybody off that a family member works in the ethanol industry. I'm sorry. Are you guys with me on this? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, in order to make money building wind farms, Siemens, who makes those huge blades and those big old, what do you even call them? wind turbines, they're subsidized by the government. Oh, let me give you a better example. So go to a car dealership today and ask them, say, hey, do you have any electric vehicles on the lot? Oh yeah, that one's been sitting over there for 6 months because nobody's buying them. Now, the reason why electric cars are expensive is because they're much more expensive to make than regular fossil fuel burning automobiles. But the government subsidizes those auto manufacturers and tell them, we really want you to make electric cars. And then they tell the people, we really want you to drive electric cars. So we'll subsidize the industry to bring down the cost of electric cars. And still, hardly anybody's buying them. The government cannot create demand. They can try, but it's not working. You understand? So these auto manufacturers are losing billions of dollars, or millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, because the government's trying to force them to make electric cars that people don't want. And the only way that you can afford one of these things is if the government subsidizes, gives you tax credits and write-offs, same for the businesses. This is called social engineering. The government trying to engineer your behavior. And I'm sorry, I have a problem with that. But if you don't even know what's going on, then you're just a sheep. And I am not raising a senior class of sheeps. Do you understand me? Okay, I'm kidding. Kidding. I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just talking. I'm just talking. You guys with me? I'm not. Am I wrong here? Do you guys kind of see where I'm coming from here? Okay, so let's keep talking about this, guys. Let's talk about the electric car, okay? Because we need to talk about this. Even tree huggers that are all in on the green energy thing are now realizing this is not the way forward. You have to drive an electric car 60,000 miles just to break even with the carbon footprint. You guys know what a carbon footprint is, right? Okay. 60,000 miles. And it's a lot more expensive. And it needs subsidies to be profitable. And then what do you do with that battery? That big old battery when it's no longer useful. The toxic metals in that battery got to go somewhere. Same thing with the solar panels. The wind turbines, they don't degrade. They're not biodegradable. They're made out of fiberglass. So what we're doing, guys, is putting the cart before the horse. Okay? We're like, I mean, literally, California says by 2035, you won't be able to sell gas-powered vehicles in their state by 2035. It's going to be all electric. What about the semi-trucks? What about those 18-wheelers? Do you know how large the batteries are that you need to power an 18-wheeler? 2 big ones. Now, you got to charge those. This is why I asked, does anybody drive an electric car? You got to charge those. In order to charge those 2 large batteries for an 18-wheeler, guys, you could power a small city with that much electricity. Where are you getting the electricity to charge the batteries of the electric cars? You need energy to do that. You're getting it from coal, which is really polluting, okay? Natural gas, which is less. You're getting it from fossil fuels. Hello? Did we pass like simple math class? Like you're trying to clean up the environment and stop climate change? And what you're doing might be even worse than what you had? Wake up, people. So, people are finally starting to wake up. And then I talked about this in my government class, guys. What's the fix? What can solve a lot of these problems for us? What kind of energy? Clear energy. Okay? Are you with me on this, Austin?
I love it.
You're in. You're in. Jude, you in? You in? No, I don't want that in my backyard. What if a tornado hits the freaking nuclear power plant and radiation spills out all over Wichita, Kansas, and we all get radioactive sickness and we get cancer and die? You're scaring me, Mr. Ebright. Nobody wants it in their backyard, but guess who wants it? Big tech. You guys want to know why the stock market keeps going up? Because of the big seven. The big seven, the big tech, they're making money. They're making money, and everybody's got their stock, and it keeps going up. The big seven. Now, money talks. And Republicans listen to money. Democrats listen to money. And big tech says, hey, we got this new thing called AI. You guys know what the cloud is? Where is that? Put it on the cloud. Where is that in the sky? No, dude. It's in a building bigger than this school. And it's got a bunch of servers in it that you got to power. And then you also have to cool so they don't overheat. That takes a lot of energy for the cloud. And then if you're going to build AI, you need huge computing systems, which you've got to power and cool, which takes an enormous amount of energy. And so big money is telling the Democrats and the Republicans, we need more energy. In California, holy crap, they don't even like energy. What is that? Let's have another rolling blackout. The lights don't work. I don't know. Ask Gavin Newsom, the governor, okay? So big tech is saying this. Can we build some small nuclear power plants to power our AI? We'll give you campaign money if you let us do it. And guess what? They're going to start saying yes. And we're going to get better at this, guys. We build smaller, more efficient, safer nuclear power plants, small ones, big ones, medium-sized ones. And guess what? One day we could aspire to be like France, where you get 85% of all your electricity from nuclear. Now, I know I don't usually talk about France in that kind of way. Okay? But Germany was getting a lot of their power from nuclear, and they said, no, we're going green, baby. Going green. And they shut down the nuclear power plants. And then there was a war, and then it got cold, and the German people said, we need energy to heat our homes. And they said, I guess we're going to have to bow to Russia and take oil from Russia because they have it and we don't. We need energy. And we're going to fund this war for Russia against the Ukrainian people by buying their oil. Thank you, Germany. That was really smart thinking, shutting down your nuclear power. To go green. Putting the cart before the horse, okay? Wake up, people. I want clean air. I want clean water. So, good? All right. So, how much time we got? Okay, listen. I put an assignment, another assignment, on campus. Anybody see it? You saw it? Came through. Okay. Now, this is a 12-pointer. The next thing we're going to talk about is the National Recovery Administration. Now, the assignment I gave you is called liberal fascism. Okay? Now, there's a guy named Jonah Goldberg, who I'm not a huge fan of, that wrote a book, 2005, called Liberal Fascism. Now, those of you that have government, remember we talked about fascism is on the far right. Communism is on the far left. Okay? Most people say, so when we think of fascism, we think of two people. Who do we think of? Mussolini and Hitler. And their fascism both came from the right. So therefore, all fascism must come from the right. The author of this book has a different theory. Okay? And what you would be reading is a book review of the book called Liberal Fascism. So, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are going to be writing a book review in the not so distant future. Yes? So this is one way to look at how you write a book review. And also learn about this theory that fascism isn't always permanent. Sometimes fascism is temporary. And it can come from both the left and the right. Okay, now, liberal political science professors at the University of Kansas are not going to agree with this. You understand? Liberal political science teachers at Wichita State will not likely agree with this. But it is thought-provoking and educational to learn. So it's a 4-page article, and there's 3 questions. The Word document shows that each question is worth 3 points. 4th hour talk to me into 4 points. So the assignment will be worth 12 points, not 9 points. Okay? The other assignment worth 20 points is due Saturday night. This assignment is due Monday night. Give you a little more time on that. Okay? But we talk about liberal fascism. This is one of the examples that the author uses. So the timing here is good. Okay? And so we'll get into this a little bit today. And then on Monday, we'll revisit the NRA. Okay? We'll move on tomorrow, do some stuff tomorrow. Okay? So the National Industrial Recovery Act creates the National Recovery Administration. Okay? That's what the NRA stands for. Now, the symbol, as you can see here, from the propaganda, I mean the posters, is the Blue Eagle. Okay? Now, this is going to change the face of business in America. Okay? The government's going to come up with these code books for every type of industry. Here I just have a picture: retail, trade, construction industry. Okay? And in those code books, the government's going to tell you, hey, how's it going? Good. Recording.
Perfect.
For you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And it's good. I think it's been good so far. Personally. Okay. So, government's going to tell you how much you're going to charge for your good or service. The government's going to tell you how many hours your employees can work, and tell you that there's a minimum wage that you have to pay them. They're going to tell you what you can produce, how much you can produce, and what you can sell it for. Now, anybody in here have a family member that owns their own business? Okay, we got farming. Anything else?
Yard business and
Okay, gutters. What kind of stuff they build?
there's like 2 sides of this. There's a
Commercial? Okay.
Contract,
What contracting what?
like concrete, construction.
Okay.
my dad owns a business that builds
Website business? Okay. All these. You got one? Okay. So, you got one? Roofing? Okay. So, let's, gutters, construction. Okay, so, hey, Henson. Billy. That's her mom. Okay. That construction company can only now do residential. They can no longer do commercial. Concrete people, where's my concrete people? Okay, you can only do commercial, you can't do residential. Okay, gutters, only commercial buildings, not residential. Okay, this is how much you're going to pay your employees. This is how much they can work. Okay, and this is what you can charge for your services. Okay, now don't worry, we're going to give you plenty of work. We'll keep you busy because we're in control. Okay, now, when businesses collude like this, they call it a monopoly. The government's doing it, it's for your well-being. Did we talk about the road to hell being paved with good intentions yesterday? Was that this class? Have you ever heard that phrase? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. You guys have heard that before. It's a strong statement. Now, Section 7A of this NRA is going to give union workers the right to organize. Okay? They had it before, but this kind of codifies it. Okay? In charge of this new government agency with this new power over you and your business and your employees is Hugh Johnson. There's another H for you. This is H number 4. Former Rule Board General, so he's going to command the NRA. He enjoyed the public eye. He was very difficult to work with. So, guys, you've been running your own business for years, generations in some cases. And you were the one that was in charge making these decisions about what you were going to make, how much you're going to make, how many employees you're going to have, how much they were going to make. You made all those decisions. Now, Hugh Johnson's making these decisions. Excuse me, what is this? What is going on? Where in the Constitution of the United States of America does it give the power of the federal government to control your business in such ways? It doesn't exist, guys. This, the whole freaking thing, is going to be found unconstitutional. Now, what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, government control. This is what Hitler did. When did Hitler get Germany out of the Great Depression? When was Germany out of the Great Depression? By what year? 1936, guys. He hosted the Berlin Olympics and brought the world into Germany to see how he had transformed that country in 3 years using what? Fascism. Guys, fascism is not a dirty word in 1933. Fascism is not a dirty word in 1936. And so it was working so well for the Germans, people in the States were saying, hey, I know they don't like Jews. I don't really care about Jews either, so let's do some fascism. We'll be enlightened Nazis, ones that don't hate Jews, and get ourselves out of a depression through government control. That's what you're going to be reading about. Doesn't that sound exciting? Now, some of the stuff you might agree with, some of you may not. I'll touch back on this on Monday, but this is the basic premise of one of the ideas that liberal fascism, this would be here, okay? It's temporary. And I'm not calling Roosevelt a fascist yet, okay? I'm not. But I might consider this fascism without calling him a fascist. This is temporary. When people say Donald Trump's going to destroy democracy in this country, he can't. This won't allow it. It hasn't happened in 200 years, and if this guy couldn't do it, nobody could do it. Destroy democracy. You guys with me on it? Well, you might not be with me. You may disagree with me on it. That's okay. I'm done. Like and subscribe. No, seriously. Like and subscribe. Just kidding. No, that was